Traffic and Transportation Committee. Thank everybody for being here. And as we traditionally do, let's just begin with a moment of silence, please. All right, thank you. Couple of introductory comments before we begin. For those of you who are here visiting with us today, we have, for these meetings, which have been talking about the half-cent sales tax, among other things, we've invited all council members to participate, and they do. But just so you know, the members of this committee that are here today are Councilmember McBride, Councilmember Gregory, Councilmember Brady, and Councilmember Gregg, I believe, are online. And me, that what makes up the committee along with the mayor, and then we'll have other council members here. As we looked at our agenda, it's not a long agenda in terms of items, but it doesn't mean it's not important. This is a continuing conversation that we're having about the city's input into the 2026 half-cent sales tax referendum. I'd like to welcome our friends in the county that are here too. Thank you for being here. So with that, we'll get right into it. The first thing on our agenda is, unless there's any questions, first thing on our agenda is approval of our minutes from October 28th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next, discussion regarding the City of Charleston transportation priorities for potential future transportation sales tax referendum. Going to turn it over to the mayor and go from there.
Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. And we're working on IT to get the brief PowerPoint set up. Okay. So just starting off, this is what we've talked about in each of these meetings to date. We had the first meeting on the 14th of October, the second on the 28th of October, where we discussed Johns Island and James Island initiatives, particularly for roads. And then today we're going to wrap up on West Ashley and downtown, and then follow up on Tuesday, November 18th at 3 p.m. For Greenbelt, bike ped, paving, and the like. So we'll talk a little bit about that here at the end. But well, first part of today is just to go through what the land on what the priorities are for, again, downtown and West Ashley. Now, this is all for December 1 submission to Charleston County. They are going to take all of the municipalities' inputs into consideration, as well as other analyses and public input. And as I understand it, they are looking to come up with a final list within the first quarter of 26 to put on the ballot. And I see Mr. Adams over there shaking his head, Eric shaking his head. That's accurate. Okay, fine. Okay, so just going through the schedule here. I put this in. This is stuff we've talked about. I put it in again. Not that we are basing everything on proration, but I do think is a guide for us. This is important to have. I mean, the TST projection for the county is 4.2 billion. 4.25 billion that it would raise. The city of Charleston's population approximately is a little under half that. So when we're trying to figure out what our priorities are, that little over $2 billion number is where we're trying to stay within, so that we're not taking money from other municipalities or areas. But, you know, this is really for the county to determine. And then when we look at it more internally, again, y'all have seen this. This is the current population of the residents of the city of Charleston County. And again, it does not have Daniel Island on there, or the Cainhoy Peninsula, because that is not in Charleston County. Councilmember McBride, of course, made a good point on this, that we also need to analyze and look into current entitlements and where growth is happening, and respect those numbers as well. But again, these are just up here for reference purposes. This is what we talked about last meeting, is ideas for West Ashley road projects. And it really is largely a list that was done back in 2024. We've added some things to it, particularly more details, not really necessarily new corridors. But you'll see here, I mean, the priority list remains US 17 South, which is select widening, some intersection improvements, safety improvements, drainage improvements underneath the road. So it's kind of a myriad of different things. It's not just one continuous road project along 17, and we're happy to provide, and we will be providing the details on what those specifics are. But again, it's largely in line with what the county has produced over the past 2 or 3 or 4 years with our staff and with theirs. Another one is the Glen McConnell at Magwood intersection here. You know, this originally said the flyover at Magwood, which is still the tentative plan, but we included, I made the edit here that intersection and how to address it, because there may be another way to address it, and that came from our conversation last week. But I think we all agree that that intersection is in desperate need of some work. The third one here is the Ashley River Road partial raising, and that is right there off the 17 bridge that is pretty regularly underwater and cuts off a major artery for the city. But also there are other improvements that are needed along Ashley River Road, and it's much like 17, where you have intersection improvements, safety improvements, and the like. And then last, we have this kind of catch-all, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. We've put this in every part of the city. It's what are the greenbelt projects, what are the public transportation projects, bike ped, paving, and sidewalks, because those have all been categories. So we'll come back to this for discussion. Let me just get through the downtown, and then we can open it up for any further comment from the committee or members of council. Downtown, these were the projects that we discussed: Lockwood and Haygood, East Bay Concord, Morrison Drive. UG Street improvements, again, that was something that would tie efforts along the east and the west side, another east-west connection that I think on this, what I would recommend that we actually move the UG improvements more towards bike ped allocation, because that's really what we would be looking for there. It's not necessarily a widening. It's really to make it more bike ped friendly as a corridor. And in exchange for the UG Street improvements location, we would look to do more focused on Calhoun Street, because that was something that was brought up by the members of the committee last go around. And again, the last part is what we'll talk about after Greenbelt priority, public transportation, et cetera. So that up, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to open it up for any discussion on these two, kind of locking down these initiatives for the peninsula and West Ashley.
All right, so let's start off with members of the committee. Any questions or comments for any member of the committee on the two slides we saw from either West Ashley or downtown? I see some shaking heads. Councilmember Gregory.
I just think that Calhoun is important.
Yeah, I think we talked about that, and I certainly think that we need a Calhoun Street up there. And
Yeah, again, this was just what was presented last time, so
Gotcha.
I'm glad to put that in as an edited and move. UG still would be part of it. It would just be moved really from a road project to a bike ped improvement is the idea.
Okay. Any other member of the committee? Councilmember Brady or Councilmember Gregg out there online? If any,
I'm good. No comments from me. Thanks.
Councilmember Gregg, Councilmember Brady. Any other member of council? I see Councilmember Pell is here and Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Mitchell has got his hand up. Yes, sir.
Yes, I just want to make sure, I know we talked about it, but the Calhoun Street is very important, but it's making sure that we come down with Morrison Drive, the East Bay Street, and Huger Street. I know we're going to change some things on Huger Street, so it's going to make sure that that corridor is going to be in line with everything else.
Yeah.
And because that's a big problem there on that Huger Street coming from the east side heading to the west side.
Okay, so what we'll do is, we'll move forward with the general language here, for the road projects on West Ashley, as is. And again, I want to just reference one other thing in West Ashley, since Councilmember Tinkler's not on. He's talked about the need for, improvements, sidewalk improvements, safety improvements, along Old Town. And that would be, again, more of a bike ped, I think, improvement, potential beautification. We're not sure if that would qualify for TST money or not, but just to complement those efforts, like we were talking about on Folly Road for James Island. So we'll keep these three, and then downtown, we will switch UG Street improvements and put Calhoun in there if that's the will of the committee.
Mr. Mayor, let me ask a question. So we're going to move away from doing the UG Street improvement.
Right.
We're going to move away from that. So we're not going to widen that again, or getting with the church and all that, like we did, like we approved a long time ago. So that's going to be off the table.
No. Just for clarity, we're looking at UG more for, I mean, there's the road improvements that, are just that 2 blocks between King Street and or is it Meeting Street?
Meeting
and
Street.
East Bay, or Morrison. Then this would be from Meeting Street all the way over to the Citadel.
Okay.
And really connect, what we're trying to do is connect everything together. All these different projects that we're doing, be it with the state, be it with the federal government, be it with the county, be it with the city, we're trying to make sure that they all inform one another and they work well together. And so UG Street would be a perfect example of that. So I hope that clarifies how we would be bifurcating.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, since we're doing the pump station there,
Yeah.
then we have a school there, which is the Catholic school, and you know how the traffic is there during the time when the kids getting out of school. So I just want to make sure we have that corridor is really in line with everything else.
Okay. All right. So if there are no, go
Yeah.
ahead. Sure.
Just really quickly, just mechanically, I think it's important because we've got members of the public looking at this and thinking about it, and ultimately having to vote on this. And in all of the different parts of the city and all parts of the county, and if Mr. Somerville or Mr. Adams even wants to comment on it, you see the word paving up there. And I know that there are people in the public who are always asking us about paving. And the reason the half-cent sales tax would go across all parts of the city and the county is we in the city don't pave anything. We don't actually do the paving. We partner with the county. We partner with the state. They handle the paving on roads that generally they own, but we live with.
Almost exclusively there.
Exclusively on the peninsula that we own a few. But so the paving process goes across not just parts of the city, but around the entire county. And I don't know, and if Mr. Somerville or Mr. Adams could just comment really quickly, how we allocate half-cent sales tax money to paving projects generally. But it is those monies that allow paving to be completed. And then it is us working with the county who sets scheduling for those paving processes and projects. So it's important that people understand that when we put paving in there, it's not that we're doing it.
Right.
The county and the state do it. This county money will go through this county half-cent sales tax money will go through the county for the administration of and the planning of paving, right? So can someone just tell me sort of generally in the last couple of referenda how the paving projects fit into that scheme?
So it's funded through the first half-cent sales tax, $4 million a year comes from that, about $6 million from CTC. That funding is then programmed through our pavement management system, which includes state, city, county roads all together. But we don't look at jurisdiction in the criteria. It's just based on structural deficiencies.
Gotcha. So just so people ask the question about, well, when are you going to go and pick a road here in the city? We then coordinate through the county to make sure that those projects get on. So that's why it is important for people who live in the city who are concerned about the condition of certain roads in certain areas that they support the half-cent sales tax, because that is the lifeblood at the county level for paving our already existing roads. And I just don't think we emphasize that enough, but I think it's something important for everybody to know. We all benefit. We all benefit from the paving processes, and the half-cent sales tax goes to fund that, a good part of it.
great point.
All right, so sorry, Mr. Mayor, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I. just wanted to
Well,
make sure we make that
and,
clear.
and Councilman Parker has a question, but if I may, just from housekeeping, because we're going to get in a little bit to paving in the next section. I just want to lock down the West Ashley priorities and downtown priorities from a road standpoint. I think we're all good.
Just a point of clarification.
Sure.
When we say Lockwood Drive, we're talking Lockwood Drive, the entire Lockwood.
Yes,
Just
yes,
making sure.
yes. Okay,
I don't
so if
think
we're
you
good with
hear it.
that, we'll move on to the next.
No objections, I
And
don't
then-
think, from the committee on those two slides anyway. Councilmember Parker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just
Sure.
a quick, it may be relevant, may not, but we had at the James Island Intergovernmental, we had a great presentation on the paving process that the county does. I won't get into too much detail, but it is really impressive. I mean, it's a truck that drives all the miles. And so we don't even decide when that gets done. It's like you said, the status of the roadways, all of that, but funding is vitally important because the more funding we have for that program, the more roads that the county can pave.
The
But
more
it is a
often you-
really sophisticated program and it's done. So I encourage people to look into that because it's,
The more often you're going to see those trucks. Yes, sir,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, you make a really good point, Councilman Seegers, you do too. And just one other thing to point out here that's a parallel process is a lot of the funding for paving comes from the state. And the state has certain formulas for how they allocate road paving funds. And interestingly, one of those criteria, an important criteria, is the quality of the asphalt. And as a result of the transportation sales tax and efforts that the county makes, in addition to just, and the work that they do, our quality has been relatively good compared to the other districts for DOT because we use our own money to help pay for it. Whereas other areas don't because they don't have half-cent sales taxes. And so we are in effect penalized by taking care of state roads. And so one of the efforts that we're working in a parallel track, and there's reception from the state legislature, is for them to modify their funding mechanism or formula so that we're not penalized. And again, this is an ongoing process right now. The Speaker of the House has put this committee together. We've met with the committee, and they're proposing legislation in this upcoming session. So another thing I would say to the general public on this is to contact your state legislator and senator and urge them to make this a priority in this upcoming legislation or modifications to the DOT process.
I think the modernization committee is certainly going to look at that. I think it's important too. We've got 51 weeks till plus or minus till we actually have this on a ballot. I think Mr. Adams, as you go through our community, I think sort of putting an emphasis on paving and how that works so people understand it would be very helpful to the cause and very helpful to people's understanding. So, all right, Mr. Mayor.
Just enough.
Yeah, oh, yes, sir. Councilmember Gray.
As we discuss paving, what I've noticed is that oftentimes after the paving, there's flooding. There's something that happens when they pave it that causes the accumulation of water in certain places that have never flooded before. I don't know whether or not there's some type of quality check that is done to sort of make sure that that doesn't happen, but it happens more often than not. But once that paving is done, water settles in.
Message received.
Yeah.
Quality control is definitely part of it. And it depends who does it, the county or the state too, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Let's not talk.
County always does it correct.
Exactly. County's really great. Footnote 1, the recent paving on Ashley Avenue was not a county project. All right. That's correct. Moving on. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
So again, the catch-all that we had at the end was not meant to be a footnote by any stretch, and it's something that we do want to have pretty serious consideration. So the next meeting, we'll be really digging into this but I want to put this out there for the committee to start thinking about. And this is Greenbelt, public transportation, paving, sidewalks, et cetera, and bike ped initiatives. So first one we wanted to just mention is the Greenbelt opportunities. You know, I'll give real kudos to the conservation community and the county for the efforts over the past 20 years to establish the beginnings of a green belt around the not just the city, but in the region. We have this kind of image up here. You can kind of see where a lot of land has been conserved. We didn't get into specific properties here on purpose, but you can kind of see where a lot of land that has been protected. So we need to figure out what are our priorities on that. And what I'm proposing here is that we really want to protect the urban growth boundary. We really want to increase public access to water. We want to, again, fully establish that green belt around the peninsula, around the city, not just the peninsula, and look at urban park opportunities. So what we're doing now is we have been meeting with a lot of the local advocacy groups. We're going to continue to meet with them. They're pretty organized in putting together their priorities, which I think is going to be incredibly helpful. We're collaborating with our staff and their staff. But again, this is something I think from council members would be a great initiative for you to ask your constituents, what are your priorities? Where would you like to see things protected? Where would you like to see an urban park? And what we're asking for everybody to do, and this is not just members of this committee, but so we can have an informed discussion and not talk in vague generalities. Well, let's think of two options, two opportunities that you all can think of within your district that might be good candidates. And again, this isn't necessarily going to go on a list specifically to that site, but it gets people thinking about what are the potential opportunities, and I think gives us some grounding in a plan. So would recommend that. I want to, if I could just go through each of these and we can kind of then open it up. Paving projects, similar. Where does your district have, needs? And again, we've covered the paving, but a lot of this is kind of maintenance stuff. And we have a record of a lot of the priority in areas that are in most need. But this is a good opportunity to hear from you and your constituents on where those needs are. And again, not that everything's going to get on there and it's all going to happen overnight, but this is just a good opportunity to engage with your constituents. So we ask for you to come in with what are your top 5?
Would it be too much for we on the peninsula who represent those to just say the peninsula?
Right.
I think. Yeah.
Right.
So.
No, I hear you. I think, again, this is meant for guidance to you all. We're not trying to micromanage it, but yeah, the peninsula you might want to get a little bit more specific, but yeah. So similar, we're meeting with Bike Ped, meeting with Charleston Moves and other stakeholders. And again, where do you all see Bike Ped needs? From my standpoint, I think it's really important for me, particularly with the ARC Bridge and the investment that's made there, to try and figure out how we can connect as much of our bike and ped infrastructure as possible. And so, how can we, it's great we can figure out the connection to the ARC Bridge to the Greenway, but what's the way to get to 61? And how do we tie that in Old Town, like that large swath of West Ashley, so that it can connect in meaningful ways? So that would be my priority for you as council members when you're thinking about Bike Ped or UG Street, is a connection between two proposed and or existing Bike Ped thoroughfares, if you will. Yes.
I thought we'd done that.
Well, in
Some
terms
time
of,
ago. in terms of having a comprehensive bike ped, trail or whatever, not just not the city, but all the way to other jurisdictions as well. If I'm not mistaken, that's been done. There's a plan somewhere.
There may be a plan. I think,
That's what
I'm sure there's a plan. I'm sure there are multiple plans. What I'm urging now that we're talking about particular funding sources for it, where are those priorities?
So just in response to Councilmember Gregor, we've done lots of planning, the people pedal plan being one of them, and then infrastructure for bike ped. Some of it's smaller, some of it's larger, like the bike ped bridge we're building across the Ashley right now. I know that there's lots of advocates out there, regardless of where we live in the city, that think a better North Bridge begins and ends with a better way to get across it on your feet, on your bike. So there's lots of places to spend monies that are gonna be allocated to bike ped projects. So I think the mayor's ask that we sort of focus laser on some of the things that are in the bigger planning process is probably a pretty good idea to get people to sort of get behind it.
Yeah, and again, I just want to reemphasize, I know this is an obvious point on all of these initiatives, right? I'm sure we can come up with a list of 100 things to do, right? But there is a limited
Right.
amount of revenue to fund these things. So this is what we're doing here and now, is to try and come together as a community, not just as a council, but a broader community, to figure out what the most important priorities are, and make sure that they get done in a very timely manner, so that this infrastructure can start to really work to the best of its ability. Okay, so the same thing, I mean, this would be sidewalk. I do want to make a point here that, because we do get a lot of complaints and, notices about sidewalks that are in bad shape. We have, just wanted for the public to know, we have a list that is updated 3 times a year. It's about 200, 250 requests that come in from constituents that are ranked in terms of feasibility, et cetera. What we'll do is provide you all this list that we have. It's a living list, but some of these are just routine maintenance, so they're not huge TST priorities. But I know Councilman Brady, for example, you have a very defined initiative that you'd like to see in your district from on a sidewalk, and that would
Yep.
be something that we would potentially list for this effort. So
Yep.
wanted to throw that out there to everybody.
Fleming Road is another.
Councilmember Brady, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, as the example that he's pointing to, I mean, it's the Sanders Road sidewalk connection, because we were connected from Half Shell Lane to the school district property with C.E. Williams, but it's very disjointed along that road, and that road ties into Dean's Ferry. So, like, talking about connecting communities, being able to connect the entire Sanders Road corridor into the Bees Ferry sidewalk that goes up will connect a lot of neighborhoods that previously you couldn't really move around by foot. So I mean, it's just an example of trying to think the long game of connecting communities.
Yeah. So again, we're looking for a list here. Yes.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know you don't need the list right now, but again, I mean, James Island, I think I feel confident in saying that sidewalks is just huge, because it's multi-jurisdictional. I mean, this is the perfect opportunity to sort of bring those voters together on that, unite them on that, because with all the multi-jurisdictional gaps and, the linear feet missing here, but not over here, and it's someone else's, piping ditches and sidewalks and connecting just some of those gaps are a huge priority, I think.
Yep.
And so I just want to follow up that really quickly. I agree with that 100%. And I'm glad that you broke this out, Mr. Mayor, into sidewalk projects, because for those who live in the city, no matter where you live in the city, there's 3 things you can do that will be popular: build or fix a sidewalk, and pave a road, right? And I think one of the messages to the county, and we don't need to tell them because they know it, is as you go through and talk about the half-cent sales tax, focusing in on these types of projects that people can see in a short period of time, get a huge benefit from. I mean, when a new sidewalk is built or an old sidewalk is repaired, it just makes you feel better about your community, and it connects you. And we as locally elected officials, I can assure you, we get a lot more calls for fixing potholes, paving roads, and building sidewalks than we do for building highways. That's for the SCDOT to do. This is for us to do, and this is the monies that we put into it to get it done. So it's sort of a two-way street, right? Terrible phrase or analogy. But for those who are interested in this, we need the resources to do it. And much of that resource is locked into a half-cent sales tax, right? So the whole point of going through this education process is so people can see how we get these projects collected and how we address some of the things that affect you day in and day out. And without the resources, AKA funds to do it, you're really gonna be sort of walking on a sidewalk with lots of cracks in it and driving down a road with a lot of potholes in it. So importance of these projects as juxtaposed with the raising of the funds to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you stole my thunder there, just in terms of, we pointed out on the paving, we've pointed out on the roads. I think it's really important for our citizens in the community to know just how important this effort is. I mean, this is the funding, this is the primary funding, local funding source for all of these efforts. And if it doesn't pass, and it won't pass if we're not organized, if it doesn't pass, we are in, we're going from a deep hole to a hole that would be unsustainable.
Bottom.
So again, I think we're all in agreement that we owe it to our constituents to be organized and thoughtful about this, to listen to their input, to let the data help drive these decisions and priorities. But I can't stress enough how critical this is for our city and the region's future. So the next steps we have here, again, we've kind of given you all your homework assignments. And I think if y'all, as much as y'all can dig in on that, I mean, we don't need overly granular specifics on this, but corridors on sidewalks and just general areas. Some of this, isn't going to necessarily make it onto the TST ballot, mind you, but it's good information for us to have in terms of where we are on our priorities. So, so again, the next TNT meeting will be to review kind of a summary of everything and these priorities for bike ped, et cetera. And then we're going to take this, a final list to council for a first reading before we submit it to the county on December 1st. So just again, breaking down the schedule for everybody. So we've got 2 more opportunities for public participation or public vetting of our priorities before we send a final list of priorities to the county.
Okay, that last slide?
Sorry,
Last slide. Okay, so let's go around the table of any questions, comments from any member of the committee. Start with Councilmember McBride. You're good. Councilmember Gregory.
Sidewalk. Right now, we have like 230, 250 requests in. And those requests are generally rated and ranked, okay, based upon the criteria established in terms of connectivity, blah, 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 blah. So I give you 5, okay? My top 5 may not fit into the criteria for selection because there's already a criteria for selection of who gets the sidewalks and who doesn't. So I'm just trying to figure out how do we get all that?
So again, we'll send you the list. You see if your 5 are on the list.
I've seen the list.
Right? And then if you want to add to them, yeah, there may be ones that don't fit into that criteria, but at least we can vet those and understand that it's a priority for your constituents and figure out why is it not fitting in that criteria.
The point I was making is that the 230 are already ranked based upon my review of them. They already went first, second, third, fourth in terms of priority for funding.
Right.
Based upon the criteria, connectivity, et cetera. I'm just trying to make sure that we're clear. Because the 230 recommendations have already been ranked.
They have been. Again, this is more for future and for perspective, I would say, in terms of how, even with a list of 230, like, there's limited funds. We all would agree more sidewalks are needed, more improvements, existing sidewalks are needed. And this is just a way for us to, I guess, sharpen the pencil, and add to an organized list on what those needs are.
Okay. Councilmember Brady or Greg who are online, any questions or comments? Hearing none, any other council member who's here at this TNT meeting? Great, if you don't mind, just a couple things really quickly. I believe our next meeting, which is where we will take public comment, will be the 18th, which is a week from today. We will start at 3 o'clock, not 3:30. I'll be here. And the one other thing I just would like to interject really quickly, and probably be remiss if I didn't, is that we haven't talked about through this process at this committee, part of the allocation for the half-cent sales tax will also be to transit. And that's, money that's allocated then to an agency to build and administer transit. And that will be part of it, but just recognize there are lots of projects going on around the region, not the least of which is LCRT, Low Country Rapid Transit, which is a project that will actually be up and running in 2029, which is being paid for with 40% of the total cost of about 700 million from the half-cent sales tax. So it also allows for the use and expansion of transit in the region, which has been called for by just about every corner of not just this county, but the region as well. And for those of you who maybe don't follow along day in and day out, ridership on the Regional Transportation Authority here in Charleston County is up about 30% in the last year. We're counting better, but we also have a lot of ridership. So the need not just for maintaining that system, but expanding that system is going to be part and parcel of what we do here. So we're going to have city allocation to the bigger pot that goes along there. So lots to think about. Very, very important that people get out there, learn about this, get educated, and get behind this. Yes, sir, Mayor.
Yeah, and I apologize. I meant to mention this at the beginning. It was not intentionally, or was rather intentionally left off the public transportation. That is not by any stretch meant to be, seeing as it's not a huge priority of the city. It's just because that is much more regionally focused, is why we are letting Carter kind of work on that. But again, I will say this, and you'd be a great person to opine on it. If there are ideas that you all have for public transportation routes, for example, Johns Island, I think is very underserved when it comes to public.
That's called not served.
Trying to be nice.
There's room for improvement out there.
So my point is, I mean, if there are ideas that you all have, by all means, I think that would be something that we could organize and pass on to the county and CARTA.
100%.
But just thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't want people to think that we purposely left off.
I got it.
Transportation.
All right.
Thank you.
Unless there's any other comment, question, concern to be expressed by members of this committee or other members of council, by acclamation, we'll call this meeting adjourned, and we will reconvene a week from today at 3 o'clock. We will continue to talk about half-cent sales tax, and we will take public comment. Are we going to, Madam Clerk, put a list up in advance for people to sign up for public comment, or they have to sign up when they come here the day of the meeting? Do we know? All right, we'll let you know if there's an advanced sign up. We'll let you know, and then we'll allocate time based on sign up. Okay? All right, thank you all very much.